Does one need to be really physically and mentally prepared once you are pregnant? What are the lifestyle changes which you really need to do? Yes, we are going to discuss all this in today's panel, which is Motherhood and You, curated by Rudy Holistic Healthcare in association with Woodpecker Media. I'm Moshmi Pal, your host for the evening. I will be moderating this with a lineup of fabulous panelists. Let's welcome Dr. Bijal. She is a pediatrician.
Hello everyone. Myself,
Welcome,
Dr.
Dr.
Bijal.
Bijal.
Hi. Happy Doctor's Day to one and
Happy
all
Doctor's
present
Day.
here.
Happy Doctor's Day.
Yeah. I'm pediatrician. I have finished my MBBS. Post that, I have done DNB in pediatrics, that is post graduation. I take care of the pediatric patients, and my special interest is in adolescent healthcare. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. We look forward to hear, from you about motherhood and a lot of changes which mothers,
Sure.
actually newborn babies, bring into the mother's life.
Sure.
Yeah. We also have with us Dr. Ritu. She's a practicing gynecologist.
Yeah, hello everyone. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, Dr. Ritu. Welcome.
Wonderful. So, to everyone who's listening, my name is Dr. Ritu Petkar Palve, and I'm a gynecologist and obstetrician by profession. I'm a yoga enthusiast by passion, and I'm on a mission to get all the princes and queens out there to get rid of any of their gynecological problems. Specifically, PCOS is what I want this world to eradicate for itself. So that's about it. And I practice at Surya Maternity and Childcare at SL Roheja Hospital in Mahim, and I have a clinic by the name of Queen's Clinic in Mahim as well. And I'm presently doing online consultation. The world is going digital, so even the doctors are going digital. That's about me. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Welcome, Dr. Ritu. I look forward to hear lots in the conversation ahead. It's going to be an interesting one. Yeah. We also have with us Dipali Dedia. She is a nutritionist. And when we are talking about motherhood, nutrition is also a very important component. So hear from Dipali about what are the changes one has to do. So Dr. Dipali Dedia.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, I'm a nutritionist. I have a degree from.
Dipali, if you could just adjust your camera, a little inside.
Okay.
No.
Why do I can see myself fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a degree from India as well as US in clinical nutrition, and I am a practicing nutritionist since over a decade. My mission is to educate people on nutrition, than just giving crash diets, and women and kids nutrition is my biggest passion. So, I'm so happy to be here today.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We also have with us Dr. Bhavi Modi. She's a practicing homeopath and also the founder of Rudy Holistic Healthcare.
Hello everyone, happy Doctor's Day to you all, and a big thank you to all the panelists who have come on board today to discuss all about motherhood. You guys know me, I'm Dr. Bhavi Modi, a health evangelist and a homeopath. I love to help you stay healthy, stay happy, and we have a group called Your Health in Your Hands, where we have almost around 6,500 health enthusiasts, and we share tips on health and wellness every single day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bhavi. And when we are talking about the lifestyle changes, we are talking about preparing for motherhood. There's so much about the bonding between a mother and a child. There's so much about the connection which you have with your newborn baby or the unborn baby. And to talk more about it, we have with us Garbha Sanskar counselor, Dr. Kalpa Shah. Hi, Dr. Kalpa, if you can, yes.
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to come here and speak on Garbha Sanskar. I am a homeopath and I've been practicing as a Garbha Sanskar counselor since last 8 years. And apart from Garbha Sanskar, I'm also a counselor. I'm a healer and I have my clinic with the name The Healing Tree. And my mission is to help women preserve their mental health in pregnancy, before and after pregnancy. I believe in hand holding them throughout the pregnancy and even after that.
That's wonderful. I'm looking forward to, ask so many questions which people have about Garbha Sanskar, about, baby not born and talking and the bonds, and how does
Correct.
it reflect, later in, the child. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Welcome all the panelists. I'm super excited, and thank each one of you to take time out today and share with us your valuable insights on the topic, which is motherhood and you. So I would want to know, when we talk about motherhood, we talk about physical development, we talk about mental development. So we're talking about the baby's mental development, baby's physical development, along with the comfort or the discomfort which comes to a mother's life also. So mostly people are focusing on what to eat, what not to eat, and there are so many myths about it. So Deepali, I would want to start from you, that what is it that you feel which is important when suddenly you discover that you are expecting, and everybody comes with so many gyan that ye kha lo, ye mat khao, and you're puzzled, you're confused, and you don't know. So would you help us understand the nutritional aspect for the mother and also the baby which is in the womb?
Sure. The total calorie intake increase, but it has to be high in protein diet with high level of vitamin B12, B6, folic acid, vitamin D, iron, and calcium. These are the most important nutrients during pregnancy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you suggest, when you say that high protein, so once somebody has actually discovered that you are pregnant, how important is it to go to the nutritionist along with the gynecologist?
It's very important because, many people, especially, we have such a wide vegetarian crowd, and people don't end up eating enough lentils and beans and dairy, which would give you enough protein in your diet, but just that people are not aware of it and don't consume it as much as required.
Okay. So you certainly say that, gynecologist and the nutritionist goes hand in hand.
Yeah, of course, and that applies to almost all the professions.
Yeah. So that leads me to Dr. Ritu. I would want to know, taking from Dr. Deepali, that he mentioned about folic acid. So how important is folic acid? When should one actually start folic acid, and when should one, what is the dosage? How does it work?
Okay, so folic acid is something that is very, very imperative to the treatment of any woman who's not just pregnant but even wanting to conceive. So ideally, we say that folic acid should start even 3 months before a couple is planning pregnancy for the women. Okay, and why is it required? Because they have found that most of the times, because of deficiency of folic acid, there is something called as neural tube defect. That means the baby's spine that gets fused, it falters to fuse. So that is a problem that happens when there is folic acid deficiency in the mother. And it's very easy to cover up this deficiency. When given the proportion of these neural tube defects that drastically increased, and now it's like a practice where there are no second thoughts about it. So folic acid is very much imperative to prevention of neural tube defects started before the pregnancy.
Okay. So does it also need, do you also suggest any other medications to somebody who's just discovered that, I'm pregnant or planning to conceive?
So medicines so folic acid is a health supplement. It's not a medicine, first of all. And there are no medicines which are required, though they are taken in that sense. So I always tell my patients that these are health supplements. Okay. So because the baby is growing and they are taking a lot of nutrition from the mother, the baby is anyways going to grow. They always know how to draw what they want, but the stores will get depleted. In the mother, the baby will have its normal hemoglobin, but the stores in the mother will get depleted, because of which postpartum, that means post delivery, she'll start feeling weak. she will not feel that energetic, and her protein loss and all those things will happen. So that needs to be replenished. And for that, we definitely give supplements that is for iron, because the baby is using a lot of hemoglobin drawing from the mother. Calcium, those are getting formed, very, very important. Protein, very important. These basic three parameters need to be taken care of by any woman, and health supplements aid to her being healthy during the pregnancy and even in the post-pregnancy phase.
Okay. Okay. That's well said. I like the way you said that it's not a medicine and it's a health supplement, because it actually opens up a very different perspective when you come to know it's a supplement, because the understanding is very different. When you say that, okay, there's a reserve bank and it's getting depleted, you need to keep filling in, there's a different kind of a mindset. The moment it comes as a medicine, you feel, oh my God, I'm popping so many pills. So I really love the way you put in this. So nutrition, coming to B12 or folic acid. So that I move to Dr. Bhavi. How does homeopathy actually help you to prepare when you discover that you're pregnant? Because you're coming under so many changes. You feel physically probably a little low. You can't understand your own emotions. And how does it help? How does homeopathy help?
So basically, homeopathy helps even for conception. There are a few remedies which will help you during your conception time. So when you're planning a baby and you start homeopathy, it helps build the woman in a way that you have a healthy pregnancy. And then during the pregnancy, as you rightly mentioned, Maushmi, there is a gamut of change in you, like, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're very vulnerable because it's a very different phase of your life. The hormones are changing. So it's like a new phase that you've entered into your life. So you see a lot of emotional changes, and then you will see a lot of physical changes too. That's where homeopathy comes into picture. And, sometimes women tend not to take medications. What I mean by medications is conventional medicines, for the fear of side effect that it might cause, because now they are worried not just for themselves but for their fetus and their baby too. So when you start with homeopathy, generally I have treated cases mainly of hyperemesis gravidarum, that is nausea that you feel during pregnancy, where the lady is not able to consume anything, not even drink water at times, because the sight of food itself causes nausea. We have some wonderful remedies in homeopathy which can take care of that. As the pregnancy progresses, the complaints of constipation, acidity, piles, which comes up very frequently. So that's where, again, homeopathy can help you deal with your piles and your fissures. Constipation can be managed. And again, I'll say it's not just homeopathy, but it's lifestyle changes along with homeopathy. As Dipali rightly said, food is a very important part of it. So definitely having high fiber food is recommended. And even the emotional changes that you undergo, we guide them along with homeopathy as to, share whatever you feel with your partner, have a support system in place. So that helps you during your pregnancy to have that, wonderful phase where you really feel that, motherhood is something that you really want it. And it's not a phase where you feel that aaj mujhe ye ho raha hai, kal mujhe wo ho raha hai, and whatever I've got into. So homeopathy definitely helps you at each step, not only during pregnancy, but post-pregnancy also, in terms of maybe lactation or prolonged labor, where, you are having a difficult labor. Again, there homeopathy plays a very important role. Arnica is something that we give all our patients after labor, because, arnica is like a wonder remedy. Kuch lag gaya to everyone knows now that arnica le lo aur theek ho jata hai. So again, pregnancy is some kind of a trauma to your body. Taking arnica post-pregnancy definitely helps you. So there are beautiful remedies in homeopathy, but again, you have to consult a homeopath to understand what remedy is going to suit you the best.
Okay, great. So we've spoken about physical, at length, what to eat, how to bring in that comfort in the discomfort state of mind or body. So I would now move into Dr. Kalpa. I'm too excited to know from her that how does one's mental state, or being in the right frame of mind, being happy, actually help when you're pregnant? Because you've discovered that I'm pregnant, and there's so much already which is happening in your body, your thoughts, your mind. you don't know, you're given so much of guidance from all around. But how does one actually tell herself that, my moods, my emotions play a very important role? So I would want to know that from you.
Yeah, so as everybody is quite aware that they need to be physically prepared when they're planning a pregnancy. But when it comes to mental preparation, rarely mothers are really ready that they are going to plan a pregnancy. They are not aware of the new role and the new responsibilities that will come to them. So many a times when a lady gets pregnant and with all the kind of inhibitions that come to her, she automatically starts feeling कि अरे ये कुछ गलत हो रहा है मेरे साथ, definitely. So she is always put into that stress कि अभी ये नहीं कर सकते, अभी वो नहीं कर सकते. Like medicine point of view also, it is not taken as a health supplement. It is taken as अरे दवाई भी खा रहे हैं. तो total the mental state is as if आप बीमार है और आपको पूरी तरह से physical और mental restriction में डाल दिया है. And definitely all this has a lot of impact on a mother herself and also on the unborn child. So mother का mental state है वो directly affects the child's mental state as well. So as a mother, it is extremely important that you maintain your sensorium and you be happy so that your unborn child is also happy. So, and we all commonly know that any stress or any kind of negative emotions tend to put our body into stress. And every time that you're put into stress, the blood will go to the peripheral organs and not to the internal organs. So automatically हाथ पैर में blood जा रहा है as if you are going to fight or flight. बट जो इंटरनल ऑर्गन है, जो यूट्रस है, वहां पर ब्लड नहीं जाता है. तो मेडिकली भी इसकी बहुत ज्यादा असर होती है ऑन द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द चाइल्ड. एंड मेंटली द बेबी इज अपसेट बिकॉज द मदर इज अपसेट. मदर के हैप्पी हार्मोन्स नहीं है, तो वो सब चीज का असर डेफिनेटली बेबी के ऊपर होता है. तो एज अ गर्भ संस्कार काउंसलर आई ऑलवेज आस्क द मदर टू इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन कि अगर आपका बाहर का सिनेरियो और आपका इंटरनल सिनेरियो में से अगर आपको चॉइस करना है, व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. So is your internal scenario important or the external scenario important? And second is कि अंदर का बच्चा important है या बाहर का इंसान important है. So if the answer is internal scenario and internal child, it is worth being happy for it.
Yeah, true. It's so important to have a control or balance on your own emotions because you know that you're responsible for that baby, and it's not about those 9 months only. It's about what you actually have in hand after the 9 months, which you've given, to that fetus, which you already have.
Correct. So 9 months, I feel, is like a good investment. Try working on yourself in these 9 months, and I'm sure by the end of 9 months, you've become like that.
Yeah, true.
So henceforth, your life is quite settled after that.
Yeah, great. So I would want to know from Dr. Ritu something like. Dr. Ritu?
Yeah.
So, we know about the food aspect of, when you are pregnant. Also about, we've spoken about the emotional thing. So when patients actually come to you, mothers, expecting mothers, how do you tell them to define their whole day? Like what kind of adequate sleep you need to take, or how much should you rest? What is the kind of physical movement you should do? What is the guidance which you by large give to your patients?
Yeah, so one very, very important thing that I first and foremost tell my patient is that pregnancy is a physiological process. It is not any kind of a illness or abnormal thing that is happening. Most of the women have become extra cautious about this thing, that now they are pregnant and they start making these checklists. Abhi ye nahi karna hai, ye nahi karna hai, ye nahi karna hai. So the negative thing is so much, the restrictions that they put on themselves, that is one of the reasons that the negative emotions set in, because they are not ready for that lifestyle. So very important thing, I tell them that you be as normal as you have been. And one very simple example is that you all must have seen this, that a woman who is in 9 months of pregnancy and is from a labor class, she will put that turkey on her head also, and she will climb. At the construction sites, you must have seen this so many times. So what I mean to say is that if you are pregnant, unless and until you are into a high risk category, you don't need to drastically cut down on 2 things. Very, very important. Second thing, yes, as Dr. Kalpa said, it's very important that how your emotions are. So to be into a sattvic phase, that is what I would call it. Like you are not into a wrong emotional state, or you are not somewhere where you're not happy about yourself. So that phase should not set in. If I talk about diet, there are certain restrictions in relation to diet, like raw papaya. So Ayurveda says that raw papaya has some abortive issues, and then that will not be taken. So there are certain little restrictions about diet, though they are not proven, but still we advise them. And rest is something that they should take. Yes, a woman who is pregnant should sleep adequately. She should sleep early in the night and also get up at a regular time. So sleeping at 3 or 4 in the morning and getting up at 10 is not right. That is not according to the circadian rhythm that exists. That means when the sun sets, you are actually supposed to mellow down. And the invention of light, unfortunately, we pull ourselves at this state. But the pregnant, the child is yet to come out, so they should better follow that pattern. 2 hours of sleep in the afternoon is good enough. That should rest them, and that is the time when they can actually, when they're resting, they can connect to the baby which is inside. So that is very important. So about diet, there are little bit few restrictions. A healthy diet is important, not junk food. Though pregnancy cravings exist, and I do tell my patients to indulge into them off and on when they feel like, but it should not be like excessive weight gain. You cannot expect a weight gain of 20 to 20. Ideal weight gain for a woman who is around 50 years of 50 kg is approximately 12 to 14 kg. And a woman who is 80, she would say around 8 to 9 kg. So accordingly, we manage their food habits like that. Anything else that you wanted to do to the voice like?
So that brings me to a question when you said about high risk pregnancy and then you don't need to do. So since we are talking about motherhood and the do's and the don'ts and what can ease out, and you are here, I would like to take this opportunity to know from you, what are those categories which are high risk and what are the don'ts actually which one needs to follow?
The common high risk, I will just enumerate the common high risk categories. Those who are having PV bleeding, means suddenly they have started to have bleeding. So these cases, there are some risk of abortion. Then when the placenta is on the lower side, there is this risk of bleeding happening. In which cases we advise extra rest. So as I said previously that I don't put any restrictions, but here when the placenta is lower, we have to tell the patient that any kind of ambulation or jerks when you go out can lead to bleeding, which can be detrimental. So one important phase here. Then second is where the BP is or twin pregnancy for that matter. So twin pregnancy also the physical ambulation is slightly restricted because they are likely to have preterm deliveries. Okay, also risk of abortion. So basically, when there is risk of abortion that we see, we ask them to restrict their movements. And another very high risk common thing is pregnancy-induced hypertension. So
Yes.
there also we have a lot of precautions where diet comes as a very important factor. It has to be, certain things are proven, certain not, but they have to have strictly monitored pregnancy where there is BP and diabetes also. So these 3 categories are common high risk pregnancies that we come up.
Okay. So I'll come to Dr. Bijal. As a consulting pediatrician, you must be, seeing a lot of patients who come with newborns or also probably consult you just before their delivery. So how do you feel their angst of what Dr. Kalpa mentioned, or for that matter, Dr. Bhavi mentioned and Dr. Ritu also mentioned that their happy hormone, how do they feel, how they can actually compartmentalize between what's happening outside and how much they're interested to look inside. How does that actually reflect in that mother or that expecting woman who's coming to you or just newly delivered a baby?
Okay, so most of the times when this postpartum, we say this phase as postpartum phase just after the delivery. I think most of the times mothers are under great stress because they have found themselves in a new world which they are trying to adjust. And it does take time for everyone, not only someone who is aware as me, suppose, but then when I delivered, I also took that time to get adjusted to new routine. Plus, there is an extra responsibility of a newborn, which is sometimes overwhelming.
Yeah.
A major thing being breastfeeding, because breastfeeding is something which is advocated by everyone and anywhere in the world, and it is the most important gift one can give it to the child, like immediately post birth. So one should actually try and do whatever they can as much as their capacity. Sometimes, the expectations are set so high that mother can't fulfill all the expectations set by the family and the world, right?
Yeah.
And also, I also suggest that they should always, involve their partner. Like most probably, most of the times it is the father or the person who's staying with the mother in this journey, because it is not a, only mother's responsibility or just mother's capacity to do everything, because breastfeeding itself is overwhelming. Plus, mother should take extra care of her nutrition and calorie intake during this phase. One should not think about losing weight, or all those things can always follow later. So that's most important. And of course, the vaccination, how your child is sleeping, your urine, stool, all those normal things which we need to see. Plus weight gain. Of course, the weight gain is another important thing, right? When you consult your pediatrician following the childbirth, they will be definitely monitoring it. But one should not get, alarmed with just, if there is a little weight gain, or sometimes it is here and there. So that's the way one should look at it post-birth.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
So bringing in Dipali, I would want to know again, when you're talking about weight gain, you're talking about, Dr. Bijal talking about lactation, or breastfeeding. How do you actually help that expecting mother to overcome all the challenges which will be coming in the future? Because there's so much of anxiety. Everyone has been talking to you, putting so much of, little feeds in your mind. And you also know the world is advocating today so much about breastfeeding. But you don't know what is the nutrition content which should go to you throughout your pregnancy to reach to that day that one day you've delivered and suddenly you start, breast milk. So would you like to take that question?
Sure. So lactating women would need a lot of calcium, a good amount of calcium-rich foods in their diet, and so does vitamin D, because vitamin D helps to absorb calcium. And also they need folic acid, B6, B12, which is a very important factor. They would also need some extra calories as well as protein. They want to stay out of junk food, because whatever mom's eating, the baby is getting that. And, you want to make sure that you are eating nutritious food. Then the milk is, obviously, baby is getting more nutritious milk. And if you don't have, let's say, have enough calcium, the moms don't have enough calcium, your bones are getting affected, because like, doctors say, your baby is going to get everything. So your bones are leached out, the calcium is leached out. And so many times after pregnancy, they, tend to have pain issues in their body, like back and leg, and or some women also tend to get osteoporosis and all that, which in order to avoid that, they need to have enough nutritious food.
Okay, that's interesting. And that's so important that, even when we spoke about nutrition and gynec going hand in hand, and totally weaving it in the journey and putting it when you have already delivered and go to the pediatrician and you don't have these teething woes. That's wonderful. So we all know that how today we are talking about equal parenting. We're talking about involvement, when you're having your spouse take over in terms of the entire journey of your motherhood. So, and if you go back and you see, there's so many stories about bonding with your, baby, with unborn baby. So, Dr. Kalpa, if you could tell, how does one, actually as parents, father and mother, start bonding? What is it that they need to do? And which is that trimester that they start actually bonding with the baby?
So, Maushmi, the bonding actually starts from the time they are going to plan the baby. So, we believe in I mean, I would not have the appropriate ahwan karte hai. We
Hmm.
believe in calling that child who is appropriate to you and your partner, your spouse. So you start talking to the child even before the child is conceived. That is the time that you start speaking to the child. And then when you conceive, you continue the journey further of speaking to the child, and you take it forward to the entire 9 months. See, the external year might visually appear at fifth month, but there are times that the kids have responded on sonography. There were experiments which were conducted where kids have responded to a particular frequency of music. They've responded to a particular tune as well. So only because the external year is seen at fifth month doesn't mean you start speaking at fifth month, because it is beyond the year and beyond the words also, the communication. So it should actually begin from preconception. And even if you don't know, at least from the time that you've conceived, your UPT is positive, it's absolutely the right time to start communicating to the child. And it involves the communication of both the parents, not just only the father to be or only the mother to be. It involves communication of both the parents, and if possible, of all the family members also towards the child. So, if it is not practically possible for everybody to look at the womb and talk, so I suggest mothers to we give homeworks in our Garbha Sanskar courses. So I suggest mothers to do the homework as a level of a family. Let everybody contribute to that homework. So automatically everybody is contributing. They are also bonding. They are also trying to connect this unborn child, and we keep the couple connected to us throughout the 9 months. So as a father also, they realize there is a lot of thing that a mother is undergoing. See, right now what happens when you go to a gynecologist, the woman is examined, the woman is given treatment. It's all about the woman, woman, woman. So the father feels I'm not required. So when they are kept throughout this entire Garbha Sanskar journey, they are aware of all the changes that takes place in her wife's body. They are aware her mental state may vary throughout the 9 months. And when they are with this awareness, when this lady delivers, no, that husband automatically stands by that lady, and that husband is also bonded with the unborn child, because he is talking to the child even when the child was in the womb. See, the issue comes because nowadays all the women are working women. So suddenly 9 months somehow they work and they manage, but post delivery they are supposed to be staying at home. So there is a lot of drastic emotional change which happens to her. Her freedom is suddenly affected by the responsibilities of the newborn child. Her freedom is affected, and the bonding between the husband and the wife also goes away, because the wife is busy either feeding or cleaning the child or coping upon her sleep. So when husbands are aware of this entire journey, when they've spoken to the child, even in the 9 months, they're still able to connect to the child, even when the wife is not actively speaking to the husband. They're still able to connect to the wife and to the unborn child as well.
Yeah.
So yes, baby talking is something which is almost, integral throughout the 9 months, and it must be continued even after that.
So would you like to elaborate a little about, for our viewers, a little about how do they actually talk? What is it that you do in your Garbha Sanskar classes?
So basically, it's like if I can compare this to a arranged marriage or a love marriage relationship that we commonly know of. So even if it's a love marriage, we tend to know the person first by basic information, right? Or even if it's an arranged marriage, we have a basic information which is there. And then you exchange numbers, you talk to each other, and then you decide this is the right person. And then 10 years down the marriage life, your bond has grown. So it has grown by speaking, by communicating. So similarly, even in the terms of baby talking with the unborn child, initially it might sound like too much of a mechanical thing, but let it be informational. Like say, this is the day, this is night, this is morning, he is your father, he is your grandfather. It may start with some basic informational thing. And then eventually, when you are comfortable with this task of just, briefing about your routine, you go a step further, and where you start sharing your further details, like I was happy today, I did this today for you, I bought this for you today, we saw you on sonography today. So these are the things which will be a second step in baby talking. So and initially probably it might be a little difficult for mothers to be loud and talk to the child, so then we let them tune the mind. But later on, when they are comfortable, we tell them at least choose one particular time in the day, either in the afternoon or at bedtime. Let that there be a papa time where papa talks aloud to the baby for 15 minutes, and let there be a mummy time where mummy is talking aloud to the child. A child will always love to hear to the mother. You can say a story, you can sing to the child, you can talk anything that you would like to share to a child. So that's how you can talk. And as about the Garbhasanskar thing, so basically we have a preconception Garbhasanskar. So couples join us from the time they are planning their pregnancy, and as they're planning their pregnancy, we guide them how to keep their mental status, how to be physically, mentally, spiritually prepared for this pregnancy. And then we guide them throughout the entire 9 months, where we are constantly telling them few practical things, as in what they need to do about the normal pregnancy changes, like nausea, vomiting, or like the constipation, or the common complaints that a mother has in her pregnancy. And sometimes they are too silly to be contacted a gynec for, and they are definitely not worth ignoring. So we help them understand those basic things. We help them prepare for their delivery. We help them, we guide them what will happen in their delivery process, whether it's a normal delivery or a cesarean. We tell them how to deal with a newborn child. We guide them about feeding, and we also guide them about a little basic about parenting for a first year. So that's how our entire Garbha Sanskar course goes on. So we hold them as long as they want us to hold them. Once they are ready to go, they can go ahead. So it starts from preconception to at least 1 year post delivery.
Okay, great, great. So is Dr. Ritu there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I couldn't see you. So I would want to know from you, Dr. Ritu, now since we are having a tough time and there's so much scare about not going as for normal people. Yeah, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see you. So, no, I can't see you because it's a black screen.
So it's at your end because so you can let me in.
Okay, so will you just
As long as you can hear me, I think it's fine. Yeah, if you can hear me, that's okay. I can address the question any which way.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know that, now since, COVID, we are so much hit by COVID. What is it that you would want to tell mothers who are expecting right now with so much of trauma? Yeah, I can see you now. So there's so much of anxiety, there's so much of trauma of going out and meeting the gynec, and then about the delivery also, because every day we come to know about a new month, new date, new deadline, and we don't know whether it's going to be 6 months more, whether it's going to be 1 year more. Okay. So how do you actually, what are the guidelines you would want to talk to expecting mothers or the family also for that matter?
So if we are talking about certain guidelines which are universal, they are guidelines given by the Federation of Obstetrician and Gynecologists of India, okay, as to how we have to go about these patients. Now, if you're talking about anxiety gets built up, it is very much bound to happen and natural to happen. So if a particular patient is registered at one hospital and the hospital closes down, that was happening some time back. So we have faced those challenges. There were other challenges like they had to shift to one particular hospital. So one very important thing that I am telling each and every pregnant woman who's coming to me is that you have to be prepared for changes. Usually they have this mindset that I will do this, then I will deliver here, then this will happen. So they have a visualized process, which is otherwise normal and good, that they have a visualized process that so things are going to happen. But since certain things are not even in our control, where as a doctor I can't control, as a government is also shifting things, I just tell them always that they have to be prepared for change to happen. So that is something very, very important. And also money wise, financially also they have to be prepared. That is what I tell them. So if I give you a very small example, one of my patients was very, very upset because they had planned the 7 months, they had sent out the invites, and they had done a lot of investment into doing a function, but then it had to be cancelled. So she was very, very upset to the extent that she was not able to sleep, and she felt that the whole crux of the thing, I was waiting so long for this occasion to happen, and literally went into some kind of disheartening and sort of not depression, I would say, but she felt very, very low after that. So we have to be prepared for changes, and keeping a balanced mind is extremely important in these situations. So counseling also is an important matter that we have to look into in these scenarios. Yeah.
Okay, so I also wanted to know how, like, today when they're visiting the doctors also to meet gynecologists like you, wherein, there is a fear in the mind. So how do you actually help them? Because that's something which they need to do regularly. They have to go and meet a gynac, because that's something which is needed. And there is anxiety. There is fear, and we hear every day a lot of traumatic news. So that's also somehow building in the anxiety. So what is it that you would want to talk about it? What are the precautions one can take?
I think that they have to protect themselves. That is something that they have to do. Because pregnancy is little bit of an immunocompromised state. Naturally it is, physiologically it is. So for them to get the infection is very likely to happen, and they're more susceptible than the general population. So one thing that they're not stepping out of the house is extremely vital. So they have to take all the precautions and a little bit added on. As a gynecologist, and what all the gynecologists are following is that they are doing online consults, and when they feel that the patient requires an examination, only then they are called to the clinic. It's not like how the previous thing was, that regularly one after the other they keep coming. So first it will be an online consult, and the patients who really require an examination, they or who have some kind of emergency, only they travel and they come. That is a major change that has happened. And apart from that, as I said, that they have to be financially prepared for some kind of shift happening here and there, and also mentally prepared to go to a different place. Now, there are certain women, we are also seeing a rise in number of women who are pregnant, and so we have limited spaces for those kind of scenarios. There are government hospitals, that is higher hospitals and Kama hospitals, which are taking these patients. And I'm hopeful that otherwise start doing that.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, Dipali, I would want to know from you that once a lady is pregnant, there's weight which starts coming in because of whatever you talk about, the nutritious or the healthy food or the cravings, all boils down to weight. And then there is again that weight loss journey. So, as a nutritionist, what would you suggest? When is it that one actually starts preparing mentally about the weight loss?
So you want to wait at least for 6 months, to start a real hardcore weight loss. You want to, watch what you're eating, eat healthy food during your lactation period, but don't just go on the, crazy diet, because you have to remember that you're breastfeeding the baby. So I've seen many, many people posting pictures that they lose weight in 2 months' time. That's not good for their body, as well as not good for the baby if they're breastfeeding. So I would wait for at least 3 to 6 months before they start losing real weight. Meanwhile, your body is used to eating more during pregnancy. So the calorie consumption is slightly lower during lactation, and that's what they can watch for.
Okay. So, Dr. Bijal, I would want to know from you that post-delivery infant care is very, very important. So, what are those handy things which you feel expecting mom should pack in her bag before she heads out for her delivery?
Okay, so what we need at the once the baby is out, what would you need? You can say the basic things like for a baby, like any clothing. Of course, the wrapping clothes you require, because you need to keep the baby warm. Temperature maintenance is very important. Now that it is not the season, but just in case you are at a place where it is cold enough, you require those clothes, extra clothes. Apart from that, for sanitation purpose or for a hygiene purpose, if you want to put on the diapers, etc., you can put that, you can add that. But other than that, I don't think anything is required per se in the hospital. But probably after you come home, you may need other things, like you may need to keep some medicines which is prescribed by your pediatrician, just in case the baby cries for gas issues or you have a colicky baby, right? And as far as top feeds are concerned, normally it is not advised. It is the exclusive breastfeeding which is advised. But just in case the mother has some issues wherein top feeds are advised, in that case, those accessories for top milk and the feeding accessories would be required for the baby.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So, Dr. Kalpa, when we are talking about unwanted stress coming to an expecting mother, whether you want to invite or not, so it's uninvited, and one needs to learn stress management. Do you think music plays an important role for an expecting mother? Or is we hear about sloka chanting? Would you like to bring in your expertise into this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of role of music and chanting, both of them in pregnancy, absolutely. So many times people tell us कि stress है, क्या करें? So then they want us like step 1, 2, 3. I mean, everybody knows कि stress नहीं लेना है. So music is one thing that comes very handy when we tell them please listen to music or do your regular chanting में ओमकार chanting है या गायत्री मंत्र है या नवकार है, whichever God or whichever mantra you believe in, at least by their past programming they know ये करने से हमको अच्छा लगता है. So we tell them that you do it repeatedly, and when a particular kind of mantra is chanted repeatedly also, no, it also helps the nervous system, stimulation of the nervous system of the child as well. So baby ka intellect also develops with the mantra chanting, apart from the spiritual aspect that mothers think about. And music, yes, definitely there are specific rags, there are specific music that a mother needs to listen at in specific months of pregnancy. So there are specific rags which are prescribed to a mother in first month of pregnancy, say in morning, afternoon and evening in the second month of pregnancy. So there are specific rags which are known to stimulate the specific organs, the specific developments that are happening in that month, and they beautifully affect and influence the mother and the unborn child.
Okay, great. So I personally, I'm a mother of a teenager, and it's long way back that the memory of pregnancy and, lactation all. But I personally definitely believe that, yes, there's lots which is connected with the mother's mood to the child's mood and the mother's, thought or the exact conditioning when you are actually pregnant. Because I've experienced this personally that I didn't feel good and I used to only listen to music, and I saw that I never put my son to sit down and listen to music. Today also we don't have this in the house that okay, sit down and listen to music, but it's just in the background, and somehow the child is stimulated very well. So I would want to know from you, Dr. Kalpa, that how do you think parents who are first time parents, would be parents, how do they actually juggle in terms of what they generally like and what is good for the fetus that way?
So again, baby talking comes here to as in rescue. So I always tell them, see, if your likes and choices are in alignment with your pregnancy and your child, very good. But just in case sometimes you're craving for something which is not safe for your pregnancy, or you are mentally craving for something which you should not be doing, or you fall for something. So I always tell them that use baby talking as a tool to rescue yourself out of it. So baby talking is something that will help you and your baby. So I tell them there are affirmations which we give them, where they're saying that, see baby, I know that nutrition food is required and there are some cravings and aversion that come up in pregnancy. So we tell the mothers to they say these affirmations. So with these affirmations, they are able to deal with the mentally deal with the situations and also with something that is physically also disturbing them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Ritu, I would want to know from you that you must be seeing a patient, a lady when she has just figured out that she's expecting, and then there is, the entire journey of 9 months, and then she again comes back to you with her postpartum where she's not able to figure out how or what are the do's and the don'ts which the pediatrician is suggesting, what is her physical, requirement, or mentally how she's feeling, and then there is additional responsibility of baby. So there's a lot of juggle. How do you think today, when as gynecologist, you are also doing a lot of workshops or training programs for mothers to prepare for the entire journey of motherhood? So how do you think that rescues? Because there could be in urban lifestyle that you're so much into work that suddenly you realize you got married, then you also realize that, okay, I need to have a baby, and it's more like a automation programming that, okay, just tick off everything, but you've not prepared mentally, because it's not like the earlier days where you've actually set in that thing, there's emotional flow, but here it's more mechanical. So how do you think you actually prepare trimester to the mothers, because that's something which is very important to bring in all the expert knowledge which we shared now about the calmness or about the stress management or everything which a pregnant lady generally tends to have.
So as a gynecologist, I feel it is very, very important that a doctor forms bond with the patient. Very, very vital. So if most of the patients who come to me, ultimately they feel that they have found a friend. So for example, this dress that I am wearing today, one of my patients stitched it in the lockdown, gifted it to me today. So just as a gesture, So I understand that it is very, very important that the patient trusts the doctor and they feel that whatever is going to happen is going to be in my good faith. So there are certain instances where they feel scared to go to the doctor. And I feel as a gynaec, it is a responsibility of every gynaec that the patient is absolutely comfortable with, and they should be able to tell you whatever they want. They should not be that how do I tell this, what the doctor thinks, will he shout on me if I talk about this? That should not occur, and the doctor should occur as a friend to the patient. That is very, very important. So from there on, when the patient starts sharing that they are facing certain difficulties, certain hindrances, then we understand that these are the special people who will definitely require some kind of counseling. Or we also suggest them to go for Garbha Samskar. Garbha Samskar is something that is very integral to my heart of Garbha. And there are certain others who I have always been an advocate of Garbha Samskar, because I clearly and I have a holistic faith. So it's very, what he is saying, I can clearly relate to that. And but when, as a gynecologist, I feel it is always my responsibility that the patient should be able to talk to me whatever she wants. And from there on, I can really start picking up that is she in any kind of difficulty. Also, not in these COVID scenarios, but otherwise, counseling of the family is also very, very important. So if I have to tell a patient, it is not just the patient that I address. I always see that where is she living with her mother, the mother-in-law. I always get them in, and then if she is having some problem, I address them in front of the mother-in-law, that take care of her, and not telling that she has threats. This is an overall view. This is how we can approach and reduce their difficulties that they face even during pregnancy and post-pregnancy.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. I would want to know from Dr. Bijal now that you've helped us understand what should a expecting mother actually pack in her bag. But back home, once she comes with her baby, in India, our homes have so much of typically the traditions dominated, of the do's and the don'ts. So starting from massage to moving to applying kajal for buri nazar, it could be a lot of things. How do you think that, one can actually take care of all these aspects? Though we know that, yes, massage is very good for a baby, for a good sleep. But again, there are, boundaries which one needs to follow. So how do you think that one can keep aligned to all these typical traditions which we have been following over the years?
Definitely, there are lots of myths in our society that if one starts following them, it can be disastrous. Now, coming to massage, we can, find out an intermediate way. Like we can say, what I usually tell a mother that yes, of course, you can give a massage to the baby because according to them, that is going to build the strength in the legs, etc. Whatever beliefs they have. But generally, I ask either of the parent or a family member can give massage to the baby because that would be more gentle and it would be soothing to the baby because as per the Garbha Sanskar or otherwise also the family members or a parent can bond with the baby in a very well way. Plus these common like this the outside people, you can means you are giving your baby in the hands of a person who may not be hygienic. Some may be, some may not be. That is one thing, and particularly during these era like COVID era when you don't
Yeah.
want to do that. So plus applying kajal and all, of course those are the traditions which have been following, but then we can always explain to the mother who is willing because it is the betterment of for the baby. Like we can tell them about the vision and otherwise because it is otherwise causing lot more problem on the skin, some allergies, or in that if we tell them, they definitely listen to it. And apart from that, one more tradition is to give honey or some sweet thing in the mouth of the baby once the baby is born, or some kind of what you say that ayurvedic they give liquid and all they give to the baby. We strongly oppose that from the beginning itself. Like it is already established that it is exclusive breastfeeding. We stress upon the word exclusive. Exclusive means breast milk only, not also water is also not allowed and not required for first 6 months. So if we try to explain the mother in all possible ways, so most of the time they understand. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I would want to ask a common question to all you guys after hearing, typically your insights on motherhood and how one, makes the family inclusive. So tell me, how does one actually bring in the entire family together to prepare for the journey, which is actually considered as a solo journey? So because what happens as a pregnant lady, you come with some preconceived thoughts, and also you're anxious, and also you don't know the technical know-hows, mostly for a first time mother. And again, as a family, as a female member, you will feel, okay, I have done that, I have gone through this, aisa hota hai, aisa to nahi hota hai, all of it. But how do you think we can make a smooth journey by having everyone together or giving everyone together to prepare for this journey of motherhood and making it more as an inclusive, affair? Let's start from Dr. Dipali.
So, there are a lot of myths about eating, certain food and not eating certain food. Just stick to eating healthy food, and you have to, if your family don't understand in any terms, then, you just explain that. Then that this is what is being told, and that's why, this is betterment for the baby, and this is more cutting edge nutrition, as in eating is concerned.
And how does one actually control the craving versus the understanding of nutrition? Because a mother expecting mother has a lot of wrong cravings, which is also sometimes said that okay fine, you give in to it because you say okay fine, she's expecting, uska man kar raha hai, so give in. But also back home, that you need to keep a check on the nutritional component. You need to keep checking because it's about the mother's weight, it's about the baby weight, everything. So how does one actually juggle between this?
A lot of time craving is also because if they are not eating on time, and then suddenly they get hungry, and then they this is common to even every one of us, that you would when you're hungry you just grab something sweet or junk, whatever you find in the house. And the best thing to avoid like unhealthy food is to stack up your home with all kind of healthy goodies. Nowadays you can get anything and everything, like if you want to eat pizza, you can get healthy pizza too, or pasta or something like that. If you're craving for, obviously you want to stack up all kind of colorful vegetables, fruits, and everything at home, so you would be consuming them. You can keep them in the visual mode, like nuts and seeds and healthy granolas and everything like that.
Okay.
So can I add on something here?
Yeah.
I would like to add on something here. So whenever such things happen, so this not just for the pregnant female, but I advise to otherwise also. So mothers who have delivered, they also have this problem ki weight loss kab hoga, how it will happen. One very important thing is whenever you're putting anything in the mouth, you have to understand that is it a physical craving or it is an emotional craving. Very, very important to understand that. So if that understanding starts to get in, then you automatically refrain unnecessarily putting things in your mouth. Now, when there is a craving and you just feel, no, I want to have this at any cost and I will take it, then you have to prepare your mind that for how much portion am I hungry? So I am hungry for an entire pizza or I am hungry for one piece of pizza also. So that you determine, and then accordingly, whatever portion you are hungry for, you just should limit yourself to that. And if even this thought process comes in, then most of the times you would either drop it eating, or if you want to eat, then you will reduce the portion of junk that you're.
Yeah, you can have just one slice of pizza if your entire family, let's say, is having that day, but then eat your healthy meal and have one slice of pizza.
Okay.
Honestly, I did that during my, first pregnancy. I was somehow craving for pizza, even though I'm a nutritionist.
Even I was.
Quite healthy.
So for my 7th month, I would like to share for my 7th month program, I was taking pizzas.
And it's funny, my oldest child is also big time, he loved all kind of cuisines, and which is what I was craving during my first pregnancy. My second one is a very simple eater, and I was very simple eater when my second time around. So it really something like Garba Sanskar thing that she talked about. It really at least for eating, I can so tell that I can relate to this.
Yeah, totally. I can also relate to it because I was a working girl, and way back then there was not too much of awareness in terms of what to do, what not. Garba Sanskar had just come in the form of CDs. Not the way it is prevalent now and the kind of awareness we have. So it was in the form of CD, which I was meticulous about putting every time I was at home when I was not going to work. So that was there just in the background. I had some music shows which I used to watch during the evenings because that's how I used to kill time. And I had a very bad eating habit. So I can actually see the clear demarcation of my son, that he has all the vices of bad eating choices, and when it goes to music or art or doing something which is soothing at that time, completely reflects in the child. So that's the reason it's so important. And today having Garba Sanskar counselors like you, it really makes a difference, because I remember my gynac doing the 7th, 8th and 9th month, the 3 months of intense sessions. And I used to attend them, and they were eye-openers, because as a couple, when you attend them, you actually feel that, you are getting to know so much about parenting, so much about, the baby, which is not there otherwise. You wouldn't read or know that much. So that's really great. Dr. Dipali, on the count of 3, I just want to know from you, before I move into Dr. Kalpa and Dr. Ritu, that what are the choice of food, you would actually suggest trimester wise, which one should actually look at consuming?
Not just trimester wise, I would say all 9 months, it's always good to have healthy food around. Like I said, nuts and seeds and granolas, healthy granolas around, because we know we are going to crave for food, and lots of fruits and vegetables, because you get your folic acid, B12, everything from there, and we need vitamin D. So get some sun and get your vitamin D status checked. So if you need to take any kind of, vitamin D, high dose supplements, then you would do it, because that plays a very important role in the hormones, as well as, bone health of the mother and the child as well.
Okay, great. So Dr. Kalpa, from you, I would want to know, how does one actually get the family weave together to prepare for the journey of motherhood? And also, what kind of music? So there could be women who are not spiritually inclined. There could be women who are loving music or art in that form, but not knowing what would actually do justice in those 9 months? So what are those, books which you would say, or the kind of music one should follow?
So I'll answer this question in installments. First, I'll answer about how about bringing the entire family together. So bringing a child in your life now is not a mother's decision or not even a couple's decision. I feel the entire family is involved in this task, and the earlier you start making them involved, it is easier for you. So either you get your family in or your family joins with you voluntarily or involuntarily. It is an integral part. So when we were talking about cravings and aversions, there are many times mothers come and say, "मैं क्यों नहीं खा सकती, सब खा रहे हैं." वैसा. So what I feel is, if as a family, entire family chooses to eat healthy 9 months, it's easier for a mother to do that, follow that. As a family, if you want something that she should be doing, it's not just like a punishment कि आपको म्यूजिक सुनना है, पसंद है या नहीं है, आपको ये करना है, पसंद है या नहीं है, वैसा नहीं है. So if the entire family participates, no, it's the more the fun about the family which is doing it, apart from your interest in the subject. So you may not like a particular thing, you may not like to do a particular food product, but when you know your entire family is doing because you are pregnant, that almost is enough to boost your spirit to do it also. So I feel, and even if you don't do it in your pregnancy, after your child is born, there are so many times where I need to tell the parents, because the child after a particular time start taking advantage of the parenting styles ki मम्मी के पास ये नहीं चलता है तो पापा के पास करना है, पापा के पास नहीं चलता है तो दादा दादी के पास करना है. सो द अर्लियर यू गेट इनटू द थिंग कि हम सबका ये इक्वल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, इट इज दिस चाइल्ड और दिस प्रेगनेंसी इज द एंटायर फैमिलीज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. बिलीव मी, थिंग्स आर फार बेटर इन प्लेस. सो द अर्लियर you start, the better it is for you. So that's about getting the entire family in Garbha Sanskar. Then apart from the spiritual thing and the musical thing that you said in the pregnancy, so everybody may not have inclination to listen to a classical music. I understand. And let it be a feedback based. So sometimes I may listen to a best music, but I may not enjoy it. So then it is not giving me the benefit that it is supposed to be giving. So I can choose the kind of music that I like. I can choose, once baby starts moving, the baby will also respond. And believe me, as a pregnant mother, you know when your baby is happy also. The way your emotions go to your baby's emotions also come to you. And you know that your baby is also enjoying. So keep it a feedback based. So थोड़ा सा आप भी ऐसा लिस्ट को चूज आउट करो कि बहुत ज्यादा ऐसा लाउड म्यूजिक या फास्ट म्यूजिक मत रखो. Keep music which will tone you down. They need not be spiritual, they can be movie songs also, but they should tone you down, they should slow your lifestyle down. They need not be the classical music which you may not enjoy also. So I can leave the choice to the mothers. They may choose to listen to particular music that they like, but make sure it is to do with the words are good, because the words that the mother is listening are having an impact on the baby. The visuals are good if they are visualizing the video while they are seeing the music. And third is that the tempo is of such a kind that it calms you and your baby. So these are three criteria while they are choosing the music. With regards to spiritual thing, I don't think you need to actually know spiritual things while you are doing in pregnancy. There are a lot of qualities that you want in yourself or you want in your child. Yeah. And you need not look out for those qualities like in the spiritual books. You can look around and look for those qualities. Like, so a very simple task I tell mothers when they come to me for the first time. I tell them, all the people whom you are in the close acquaintance with, just list down 5 good qualities of that person. And while she is doing that automatically, and I said, and that list has to be that I want good quality of my mother-in-law. Ki meri mother-in-law is disciplined. I want that in my child. Or I want my child to be as particular as my father-in-law. I want my child to be as workaholic as my husband. So basically, you may look into, if you have a particular inclination for spiritual books, you can look into the spiritual books, choose qualities that you want from those characters in the stories in your child, or simply look around. There are so many people who are doing so many things. I mean, many times when mothers complain कि mother-in-law ऐसी है कि वो बार बार गलतियां निकालती है, I said, very good quality. She is a very good critic person. So I want that critical quality in my child. You want that, right? गलती का कुछ काम करेंगे. See, every quality is good, but only the context may be wrong at some time.
Yeah.
So just pick the quality, and the minute you concentrate on the quality, you come closer to the intention of the person, and then you realize that it is good for me. So spiritual अगर पसंद है, inclination है, you can go through that. नहीं पसंद है तो भी I think there are enough qualities on the platter around people. So pick from there and just imbibe in your child. मेरे बच्चे में ये भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए. Greed, it's always greedy to be. It's always good to be greedy about qualities that you want in your child. Yeah. So you can always keep on picking them, adding them, updating the list that you want in your child. It's like your husband is going to a Bangkok trip and you have a list ready and you are still messaging him after he's gone there. कि अरे ये भी list में add कर दो, ये भी list में add कर दो. So the qualities that you want in your child, I think the list is never ending.
And I think the best part, the beauty is that, of nurture, because this is the time when you can nurture as much by putting your thoughts in terms of what you can expect. And gradually, then once you have the baby, you will have to do so many things on physical, and wherein it will be purely dominant in your hands to get out all those qualities which you have actually asked for, because the qualities which you have asked for may come, but they may be dormant. Then you will need to literally nurture, because nature gives you that baby in hand with everything which is dormant, and then to take everything out, you will have to do each step of your own to add up to get that quality shine.
Correct. Out. So I always tell mothers, you have an added advantage right now. You are pregnant. So pregnancy के नाम पे you can do everything that you want to. So might as well do good things and set the cycle rolling. So even after you have delivered, okay, these all things will be, this will be on. Set some schedule for music, set some schedule for, say, yoga or pranayam. So then once it is set in your body for 9 months, then automatically post-delivery also you will make sure that thoda sa time adjust karke you make sure you listen to good music while you're cooking or something. So ये cycle set करने का काम is 9 months. And ये 9 months में जितना जो चाहिए वो set कर दो. And use your pregnancy to advantage, and then post-delivery, I think it is a smooth roll then.
Yeah. So my last question to Dr. Ritu, that today, everyone is doing all their research and homework on Google. They really don't want to connect with their mothers or mother-in-laws or, anybody for that matter, because they feel that, okay, my gynac told me, still let me Google. My mom told me, still let me Google, so they trust Google more. So what do you actually tell, these people about how much trust can they actually go by? Because there's so much which comes in terms of each trimester, do this, don't do this. And there's so much which you must be seeing case to case as a patient, that Google will give you a generic thing. But when it comes to patient wise, there's everything which is individual, specific.
So not that every woman who is pregnant is that much into Google, but as soon as you can sense that when you come across to a person, you're talking to her, so Google में ये देखा, Google में वो देखा. So one very important thing that I always put across is that the knowledge that you are getting is not a filtered knowledge. Okay, what I have access to through Google is through some specific sites which are approved. But you people are not even aware about that. So you are just taking something that is general and applying it to your life. So instead of that, it's better to go to a particular person who is that kind of therapist. For example, hypnotherapy. So you will just Google and start doing whatever you want. You will gather your own knowledge. Probably you will put certain impressions on your mind which would cause more damage than causing benefit. So, and many of the doctors also have put up this, that I don't have that outside my clinic, but keep your Google knowledge out and only then you enter the clinic. Many of the doctors have that. And it's very true, because the list is never ending of the questions, and the questions don't have any relevance. It's just picked up from there. And I personally believe that should not be encouraged, because Google is giving us good knowledge also, which might be informative, but certain people have the habit of going into so much of depth into it that they get completely engrossed into what is being said and done and blindly follow that. So that should not happen. Draw that line. That's what.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. Bijal, I would want to know from you that, as they mentioned, that from eating right with your and having your family involved in each thing which you do, and having inclusivity basically, and preparing for the journey, what is that one message you would want to give for striking that balance or juggling between going for delivery and post delivery? So that juggle which comes when it comes to the family aspect.
So when it comes to the family, we should educate family as well what a mother undergoes, especially the father of the baby should be aware about the status what his wife is undergoing. Also, some amount of depression is very common in each and every mother who's just delivered. So family should be empathetic towards so, they need to support the mother in taking care of the baby. Just because she has delivered the baby, its whole responsibility lies on you, the mother is not good because she needs to catch up. Let's say somebody taking care of a newborn and she catching up on the sleep, right? And secondly, also one of the most common thing, just not in case of newborn, but for all the mothers, don't compare your journey with others' experience because you have heard about it from someone, your relative or your friend. It may not be applicable in every case, and don't compare your baby as well in the postpartum phase as well and after that, because each and every mother's journey is different and unique and it should not be compared.
Okay, great. Thank you so much to each one of you for taking time out and sharing such valuable insights on things which are, spoken, breaking the myths, and, discussing this in such a friendly conversation where it feels like each one going through a journey and bringing it something which is so relatable, because otherwise when you hear about the journey itself of motherhood, suddenly those horns pop up where you feel, oh God, what will happen? Once I have the baby, what will happen? But the way you guys conducted the entire thing by making it simpler, I don't have better words to thank you guys. Thank you so much, and wishing each one of you a happy Doctor's Day once again.
Same to you.
Thank you, Moshmi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavi Modi. Also, thank you, Vruddhi Holistic Health Center, for taking up such a topic and calling all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.